My name is Melissa. I'm 42. And I'm not sure how I got here, standing outside my stepson's dorm room at 9 a.m., holding 2 coffees and a forced smile like it's a mask I forgot how to take off. This isn't about him, not really. It's about me. And how everything that used to feel solid in my life, my marriage, my body, my sense of self, has started to shift under my feet. Like standing in sand too long, and suddenly realizing the tide has pulled half of you out to sea. I didn't expect to feel this much just walking through a college hallway. The posters on the walls, the smell of microwave noodles and detergent, the echo of laughter behind closed doors, all of it reminded me of when I was younger, freer, and hadn't yet become this version of me. Someone so tightly wound I don't even notice until I'm unraveling in silence. I met Tom, my husband, when I was 33. He was already a dad to Jonah, who was just turning 11. Back then, I used to joke that I fell in love with them both at once. Tom was funny and patient and kissed me like he knew where every hidden bruise lived in my heart. And Jonah, well, he was shy, thoughtful. He looked at me like I was someone worth showing up for. We built something. A home, a rhythm. At first, everything felt like the movies, kisses in the kitchen while pasta boiled, lazy Sunday mornings tangled in sheets, his hands slipping under my shirt with a kind of urgency that made me feel wanted. Desired. Chosen. But over time, little things changed. Not in any big dramatic way. Just erosion. Tom still kisses me, but now it's like brushing teeth, habitual, necessary, flavorless. When he hugs me, his arms tighten out of reflex, not longing. We cuddle on the couch, but it's different. His hand used to rest on my thigh or sneak under the blanket. Now it just sits on the remote. Sometimes I shift closer and he doesn't notice. Or worse, he shifts away. Last week, we were in bed and he reached for me. I rolled into his touch, hungry for something more than routine. But halfway through, he paused, sighed, and whispered, "Sorry, long day." I nodded. Said it was okay. But it wasn't. Not really. That night I laid awake, staring at the ceiling fan, wondering if he even saw me anymore, not just my body, but me. The woman who used to dance barefoot in the kitchen. The one who sent flirty texts in the middle of board meetings. The one who used to feel powerful in her skin. When Tom suggested I visit Jonah for the weekend, he'd love to see you, and it'd be nice for him to have a little home energy for a day, I said yes without thinking. But now, standing in this hallway, I realize I said yes because I needed space. I needed to breathe. Jonah's grown now, almost 20. He moved out last year. And being here, on his turf, away from the house that feels like a memory of something I can't quite touch anymore, it's jarring. I feel both older and younger in the same breath. Like I'm slipping between versions of myself and can't settle on which one I still am. I keep playing back one moment in my mind. A few weeks ago, Tom and I were getting ready to head to dinner. I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my dress. It was red, fitted, a little daring for me lately. I caught him watching from the doorway. He smiled. But not the way he used to. Not like "I can't wait to take that off you later." More like "You look nice. Safe. Respectable. Predictable." And in that moment, something inside me just hollowed out. That was the moment I realized I'd started to disappear in my own life. And I'm not sure if anyone's noticed. Not even me, not until now. Jonah's dorm room door swung open with a sleepy grin and a "Hey, you made it," like I hadn't driven 3 hours before sunrise and cried twice on the highway. "Brought your favorite," I said, holding out the coffee like it was a peace offering. He took it and gave me a warm, boyish hug, the kind that lingers a beat too long and makes you realize just how much taller and broader your once little kid has become. We talked casually at first, classes, his roommate, the cracked tile in the bathroom they still hadn't fixed. He had a tone, relaxed but measured, like he was trying not to let anything real slip through. I recognized it. I use it all the time with Tom. After a while, Jonah left to take a quick shower. I stood by the window, looking out at the quad and the small groups of students walking by in sweatpants, laughing about nothing. The kind of closeness that comes so easily at that age, before mortgages and routine and quiet resentment thicken the air like humidity. When my phone buzzed, it was Tom. "Miss you this morning. Still think you're sexy in red." I stared at the screen. 3 years ago, that would have made me smile. Now? It felt timed. Like he was trying, sure. But from a script he didn't write. Tom's a paramedic, always on call, always running. He comes home smelling like antiseptic and exhaustion, hands still twitching from adrenaline. He shows his love in bruised knuckles and paying bills early and grabbing my hips from behind in the kitchen, like maybe if he holds me tight enough, I won't notice he hasn't actually looked at me in days. I remember once, I told him I felt lonely. He pulled me into bed, kissed down my neck, and said, "How can you feel lonely when I'm right here?" But he didn't ask why I felt that way. Didn't ask what I needed. He just assumed touch would fix it. I didn't say anything at the time. I let it happen. Because what do you say to someone who thinks they're loving you when you feel like you're drowning? Back in Jonah's room, I settled on the edge of his unmade bed and glanced at the photos on his corkboard: friends, camping trips, one of me and him at his high school graduation. My smile looked real in that photo. I don't know when it stopped being real in real life. Jonah came out of the bathroom, towel slung low, still damp and casual in the way only college boys can be. I looked away instinctively, not because I was uncomfortable, but because suddenly I felt out of place. Too aware of my age. My body. My presence. "Sorry," he said, laughing a little. "Forgot what it's like having someone knock." He changed behind his closet door while I tried to shake off the weird ache blooming in my chest. Not desire. Not even regret. Just a sharp, unspoken reminder that time had moved forward, and somewhere along the way, I stopped catching up. When we sat to eat bagels from the corner cafe, I finally asked, "Do you still talk to your dad much?" He shrugged. "Here and there. He's busy. Work, life, you know." Then, as if reading something in my face, he added, "He's a good guy, though. Loves you, I know that." I looked down at the table. Yeah. I know. It was all true. And still, not enough. Later, when I got back to the hotel, Tom called. I answered on the second ring. "How's the boy?" he asked, voice warm, familiar, distant. "Good," I said. "He seems older." Tom laughed. "He is. That's what happens." Then came the pause. That beat of silence where I wished he'd say something real. Ask something real. Instead, he said, "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. You bringing that red dress back home?" And just like that, my chest tightened. I wanted to say, "I don't feel sexy. I feel invisible. I feel like you only touch me when you want something but never hold me when I need to fall apart." I wanted to scream, "Why can't you ask how I really am?" But I didn't. I said, "Yeah." I packed it. And we hung up like everything was fine. Tom picked me up from the train station the next day. He leaned out the window, smiling like he'd missed me, like this was a movie and I was returning from war, not just a 24-hour visit to our son. "Hey, beautiful," he said, grinning, his sunglasses pushed up on his head like always. I slid into the passenger seat and he leaned across to kiss me. It was soft, practiced. I kissed him back, but something inside me didn't move. Like a button that used to switch on so easily, now stuck. The ride home was quiet except for the radio. He reached for my hand, laced our fingers together like he was still trying, like he didn't realize that some part of me had already started to slip out the back door, barefoot and unnoticed. When we got home, I went straight to the kitchen, set down my bag, and started making tea. He followed. "I missed you," he said, wrapping his arms around my waist from behind. I stiffened. Just slightly. He didn't seem to notice. His hand slid under the hem of my shirt, fingers warm and familiar on my stomach. I should have leaned into him. A part of me wanted to. But another part froze. "Tea first," I said, too lightly. Train was freezing. He kissed my neck, still not letting go. "You know what warms you up faster than tea?" I gave a short laugh. "You've used that one before." He chuckled, still pressing his hips into me. I forced a smile, reached for the mugs. He finally let go. I could feel his confusion behind me, though he didn't say it. He never does. Later that night, after dinner, we curled up on the couch. I sat next to him out of habit. His arm came around me, hand stroking my shoulder absent-mindedly while we watched some show neither of us really cared about. His touch didn't feel bad, just disconnected. Like a memory reenacted too many times, faded around the edges. When the show ended, he turned toward me, brushing my hair back behind my ear. "Come to bed?" I nodded. But I was already tired, not the kind of tired that sleep cures. The kind of tired that settles in your chest and makes everything feel too loud. In the bedroom, he undressed quickly, casually. I took my time, turning away from him, avoiding the mirror. I slipped on a soft tank top and sleep shorts and crawled into bed. Tom was already under the covers. He reached for me again, hand stroking my thigh, inching higher. I turned slightly, pretending to shift my pillow. He kissed my shoulder. "Still cold?" "Just tired," I whispered. He didn't answer right away. His hand paused for a second. Then it moved again, this time more deliberately. I didn't flinch, but something inside me sank. I turned to face him. Kissed him. Let it happen. But my lips felt dry, my chest tight, my mind elsewhere. I watched him, almost like I wasn't in my own body. And I hated it. Hated how I couldn't connect. How I wanted to want him, this man who'd shared my life for nearly a decade. But when he touched me, it felt like he was looking for something I couldn't give. At one point, he reached behind and slapped my butt playfully, like he used to when we were first dating. Back then, it made me laugh. Now, it made my skin crawl, not because it hurt, but because it felt like permission he hadn't earned. I froze. He noticed this time. "You okay?" he asked, breath catching. "You seem off." I looked at him, blinking hard. I wanted to say I don't know how to feel close to you anymore without disappearing inside your expectations. But instead I whispered, "I'm fine. Just tired." He nodded, pulled me closer. Tried to hold me like always. But inside, I was already pulling away. And somewhere in my head, a quiet, bitter thought surfaced: why does everything have to turn into sex? We were out to dinner, our welcome home date, as Tom called it. A quiet bistro he'd picked because it used to be our place, back when we needed reservations and couldn't keep our hands off each other. I stared at the candle between us. The flame danced over our wine glasses, reflected in his eyes. He was smiling, in that half-present way he gets when he's trying. He complimented my hair, told me I looked gorgeous and rested, and I smiled, even though I hadn't slept well in days. The conversation meandered: Jonah's classes, a co-worker of his who nearly OD'd on shift, whether we should repaint the kitchen. He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "You being there for him this weekend, that was a good thing." I think he needed it. I nodded. Yeah, maybe. Then something flickered in him. A sudden alertness. He looked at me more closely. Did something happen while you were there? I shook my head. No. Not really. We just talked. Walked around. It was nice. Then, a pause. And I heard myself say it, too flat, too careless. It was easier, in a way. His brow furrowed. Easier? The air around us stiffened. I just mean, I sighed. He listened. Asked questions. Felt present. I looked up at him, immediately regretting the words. Tom let go of my hand. Well, I guess I've got some competition, he said, attempting a half smile. But it didn't land. Not even close. God, that's not what I meant, I muttered, rubbing my temples. Tom leaned back in his chair. So what do you mean, Mel? You've been distant for weeks. Months, maybe. I try to be close, you push me away. I touch you, and you flinch. You barely look at me. I do look at you, no, you watch me, he cut in. Like I'm someone you used to love. Like you're waiting for me to do something wrong so you can confirm it's all broken. That cracked something open in me. Oh, come on, Tom, I snapped. You think touching my thigh during dinner or grabbing me in the kitchen is intimacy? You haven't asked me how I'm doing in months. All you do is try to fix it with your hands like I'm some switch you can flip. His jaw clenched. That's not fair. No, what's not fair is feeling lonely next to someone I share a bed with. What's not fair is pretending I'm okay with the kind of love that only exists when you're half asleep or horny or between shifts. He stared at me. Quiet. Eyes hard, but unreadable. And then, in the softest, most dangerous tone, he said, You think I don't try? You think I don't come home exhausted and still reach for you because I want us to feel like we used to? I blinked. Tears were rising before I could stop them. It's not about reaching. It's about seeing. I don't need you to want me like I'm some chore on your to-do list. I need to feel seen. That last word, seen, caught in my throat. Loud. Final. People at nearby tables were starting to glance over. I wiped my cheek quickly and stood up, grabbing my purse. I need air, I whispered. Tom didn't follow. Outside, I sat on a low brick wall near the parking lot and let the tears fall. I hated the way I'd said everything. Hated that it came out so loud, so sharp. It wasn't even what I wanted, not really. I didn't want to hurt him. I didn't want to humiliate myself in public. I wanted him to see me. I wanted him to remember who I was, before I became someone who had to leave the dinner table just to breathe. And worst of all, I felt guilty. Guilty for being ungrateful. Guilty for wanting something more. Guilty for saying Jonah felt easier, lighter, even though it was true. I pulled out my phone, looked at the photo I took of Jonah that morning, hair messy, eyes tired, laughing at something dumb I'd said. And I thought, why was it easier to talk to my stepson for one day than to my husband in a whole year? That shame burned even hotter. The house has been quiet for 10 days. Not silent, not completely. We still talk. We still ask, did you feed the cat, or did you take the car in? We exchange nods over coffee and polite thank yous at dinner. But we don't really speak. Not in any way that means something. And the bed feels colder, even when we're both in it. Tom doesn't reach for me anymore. Not physically, not emotionally. I catch him sometimes, looking at me like he's trying to find the thread we dropped. Like he's hoping I'll make the first move so he doesn't have to risk rejection again. But I don't. And neither does he. At night, I lie awake and remember how his hand used to drift over my back when we were falling asleep. How he'd trace the curve of my spine without even realizing it. Now, he stays on his side. I can feel the distance between us like a wall we both built, brick by unspoken brick. And I miss him. God, I miss him. Not just the man who kissed me on my porch in the rain after our third date. Not just the man who built IKEA furniture while swearing under his breath and made me laugh so hard I cried. I miss this version of him too, the man he is now. A little more tired. A little more distant. But still mine. Maybe. He comes home later than usual now. Says yes to extra shifts. Last night, I heard him on the phone in the hallway, laughing, a real, full laugh. It hurt. Not because I was jealous, but because it reminded me he still has that part of himself, just not with me. We're both bleeding slowly, and neither of us is reaching for a bandage. I try to talk myself out of it. It's just a phase. You're both stressed. This happens in long-term relationships. It doesn't mean it's over. But then I remember the way his face looked at that dinner, that mix of confusion and hurt, and I wonder if I've already done damage I can't undo. Yesterday, I found one of his old sweatshirts in the laundry. The blue one I used to steal and sleep in when he worked overnights. I held it for a minute longer than necessary. Pressed it to my face. It still smelled like him, citrus and something deeper, like pine and heat. And for a second, I felt 19 again. Like I could still crawl into his arms and find safety there. But I didn't put it on. I folded it and left it on the dryer. There's a kind of grief that comes from missing someone who still shares your bathroom. And it's not like Tom's the villain here. He's just tired. He gives everything to everyone, to his patients, to his coworkers, to the chaos of other people's worst days. And when he comes home, maybe he just doesn't have anything left for me. Or maybe I stopped letting him in before he even realized I needed something different. We both keep pretending it's fine, but I see the sadness in his eyes now. The caution in the way he touches me, or doesn't. Like he's afraid I'll flinch again. Like he's punishing himself by keeping his distance. And the truth is, I don't want to leave. But I also don't know how to stay like this. So tonight, as I sit at the edge of the bed while he showers, steam curling out from the bathroom door, I make a decision. Not to walk away. Not yet. But to speak. To say the hard, clumsy words I've been swallowing for too long. Even if I don't say them right. Even if he doesn't say anything back. Because maybe we still have something worth saving. And maybe the first brick has to come from my side of the wall. I was sitting on the edge of the bed, still in my robe, twisting the hem between my fingers, when Tom walked in from the bathroom, towel around his waist, hair damp and sticking to his forehead. He didn't say anything at first. Just looked at me. I forced myself to meet his eyes. I need to say something, I whispered. He nodded. Sat down beside me, close, but not touching. His shoulders were hunched forward, like he'd braced himself for impact. I miss you, I said. My voice cracked. But not just you. I miss who I used to be around you. I don't know when I stopped feeling like myself. He stared ahead, jaw tight. You think I haven't noticed? He said quietly. I've felt it too. You pulling away. Me not knowing what the hell to do except try harder the only way I know how. I know, I said, softer now. I know you were trying. I needed you to see me. Not just reach for me. He looked down. It felt like every time I touched you, I was doing it wrong. Like there was this wall between us and I couldn't figure out where the door was. I swallowed hard. I built the wall. I know that. I was tired of pretending things felt good when they didn't. I didn't know how to ask for something else without sounding like I was blaming you. He turned to me then, slowly, like he was afraid I might vanish. So what now? I didn't have a neat answer. Just a heart full of messy, half-formed hope. We don't fix it overnight, I said. But maybe we stop trying to jump to the ending. Maybe we just sit in the middle for a while. Be uncomfortable. Be honest. Tom nodded. Okay. We can do uncomfortable. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then, gently, he reached out and placed his hand over mine. His touch was hesitant, not possessive, not eager, just human. I didn't flinch this time. And for the first time in a long while, we sat like that, quiet, real, raw. Two people who had hurt each other without meaning to. Two people who were tired, but maybe not done. Later that night, he kissed my forehead before rolling over to sleep. Just that. No expectation. No weight behind it. And somehow, it meant more than anything else had in months. You know, I used to think love meant never feeling lonely in a room where someone else was breathing. I thought if someone loved you, they'd always know when something was wrong, like they'd sense it in your sigh or the way your eyes lingered too long on the floor. But that's not real. Love doesn't give you psychic powers. It just gives you someone to tell the truth to, if you're brave enough to say it. For a long time, I wasn't. I thought being quiet was the kindest thing I could do. That swallowing my frustration, folding my sadness neatly under the laundry, and smiling anyway, that was love. I thought if I just waited it out, if I touched back when touched, if I kissed back when kissed, eventually the disconnection would pass like a storm over a house we both forgot was leaking. It doesn't work like that. You can't rebuild intimacy with silence. You can't reconnect without being seen in your mess. The visit to Jonah's dorm, it wasn't the crisis. It was the mirror. It showed me how easy it was to talk to someone who wasn't expecting anything from me. It reminded me what it felt like to be asked, "How are you really?" Without an agenda. To be heard. And that scared me more than anything. Because it made me realize I hadn't felt that in my marriage in a long time. And worse, that I had a part in that. I'd been waiting for Tom to rescue us. To magically know the exact combination of words and touches that would pull me back into my own body. But he was lost too. Carrying his own exhaustion. Trying in the ways he knew how. And I never told him he was reaching for a version of me that didn't exist anymore. So we talked. Not perfectly. Not all at once. But we did. We sat across from each other, not as enemies or strangers, but as two people who had loved well, and also failed. Who had tried, and missed, and tried again. We stopped pretending the distance wasn't there and finally asked, how did we let it grow this wide between us? We didn't fix everything. I don't think fixed is the right word anyway. What we found was something more honest than we'd had in a long time. I learned that desire, real desire, doesn't start with hands or mouths. It starts with presence. With curiosity. With seeing each other when the lights are still on and the dishes are still in the sink. I learned that you can love someone and still feel disconnected. And that coming back from that place is hard. But not impossible. We created new boundaries. New rhythms. Some nights we still miss. Some nights we sleep back to back. But the silence doesn't feel like punishment anymore. It feels like space. Space we know how to cross now. And when he touches me, when it's slow and not trying to lead anywhere, I don't brace myself. I lean in. Not because everything's perfect. But because now, it's honest. If you're listening to this, if you're in a relationship that's starting to feel hollow around the edges, I want you to know something. Distance isn't always the beginning of the end. Sometimes, it's the beginning of attention. Of reckoning. But only if you're willing to stop pretending it doesn't hurt. You have to speak. Even if your voice shakes. Even if you say it wrong the first time. Even if they don't understand you the way you hoped they would. Say it anyway. Because disappearing slowly in someone else's life is a kind of heartbreak that leaves no bruise, but it takes everything from you. And you deserve more than that. You deserve to be seen. I didn't leave. And he didn't either. But in some ways, we both had to come back to each other, as we are now, not as who we used to be. And maybe that's love too.